Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UCS Shadow, staring at the vast emptiness of space through the main viewport. His reflection looked back at him, a tired face with graying temples and eyes that had seen too much. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of systems running at minimal power. "Sir, we're picking up strange readings from Sector 7, Lieutenant Amy Chen called from her station. Her fingers danced across the control panel as streams of data filled the screen. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of readings?" "Multiple ships, sir. Big ones. They don't match any known human or friendly vessel signatures." Amy's voice carried a hint of worry. Jake felt his stomach tighten. For years, humanity had played the role of harmless traders, traveling between their small colony worlds. The other species in the galaxy saw them as weak, barely able to defend themselves. That was exactly what Earth wanted them to think. "Put me through to Admiral Harper," he said, settling into his command chair. The view screen flickered, and Admiral Lisa Harper's face appeared. Her office on Earth looked pristine and calm, but Jake could see the tension in her eyes. "Captain Morrison," she said formally. "What do you have?" "Multiple unknown contacts in Sector 7, Admiral. They're moving toward human space." Lisa nodded slowly. "We've been expecting this. The Vortex Collective has grown bold. They think we're easy targets." "Shall we intercept, ma'am?" "Negative, Captain. Maintain your cover. Let them think the Shadow is just another cargo hauler. We need more information." Jake's jaw clenched. "Admiral, if they're heading for our colonies, trust me, Captain. Everything will make sense soon." The connection ended. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They all knew something big was coming. For months they had run practice drills in secret asteroid fields. They had learned to use weapons systems that officially didn't exist. The Shadow wasn't just a scout ship. It was something much more. "Lieutenant Chen, track those ships, but stay hidden. Ben, make sure our stealth systems are running perfectly," Jake ordered. Chief Engineer Ben Davis looked up from his console. "Already on it, Captain. They won't see us unless we want them to." Hours passed as they silently followed the alien fleet. Jake watched the sensor data with growing concern. The ships were massive, heavily armed, and there were dozens of them. If they attacked one of the human colonies, the civilians wouldn't stand a chance. "Captain," Amy said suddenly, her voice tight, "I'm reading communications between the alien ships. They're using an old human encryption code, one we reported as compromised 6 months ago." "Are you saying they have our codes?" "Yes, sir. And there's more. They're talking about targets. All of them are human settlements. This isn't a random attack. They're planning an invasion." Jake's mind raced. The Vortex Collective was known for their aggressive expansion, but they had never directly threatened humanity before. Something had changed. "Sir," Lieutenant Carl Johnson called from the weapons station. "I'm detecting energy signatures I've never seen before. These ships are using technology we don't have on record." "Maintain position, Johnson." Jake turned to Amy. "Can you crack their communications completely?" "Working on it, sir." Her fingers flew over the controls. After several tense minutes, she looked up. "Got it, Captain, you need to hear this." She played the alien transmission through the bridge speakers. The language was harsh and guttural, but the translation software worked perfectly. "War Commander Zartok to all vessels. Phase 1 is complete. The humans have taken the bait. Their pathetic defense fleet is scattered across the rim worlds, protecting their precious trade routes. Earth itself is practically undefended." Another voice responded. "Excellent. The Trade Federation's information was accurate. These humans will be crushed before they know what hit them." "Good. Begin final preparations for the main assault. In 7 rotations, we will show the galaxy what happens to species that grow too comfortable." The transmission ended. Jake felt his blood run cold. 7 rotations meant less than a week in human time. The enemy knew about Earth's true military strength, or what they thought was Earth's military strength, but they didn't know about ships like the Shadow. "Sir," Ben said quietly, "should I bring the special systems online?" Jake nodded slowly. "Do it, and send a secure message to command. Tell them we've confirmed hostile intent. The Vortex Collective is moving on Earth and they have inside information As alarms chimed softly throughout the ship, Jake looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. The time for hiding was over. Soon, the galaxy would see what humanity had really been building in the darkness. "Crew," he announced, over the ship's comm system, "prepare for combat operations. We're about to show these aliens why humans don't stay down long." The bridge crew exchanged knowing looks. For months they had trained for this moment. The Shadow had been built for one purpose: to hunt in the darkness and strike without warning. Now the hunt was about to begin. Outside the viewport, the iodite stars seemed to shine brighter. Jake wondered if this was what the first sailors felt like, staring at an endless ocean filled with unknown dangers. But unlike those ancient explorers, his ship carried the fate of humanity in its hull. "Course laid in, Captain," Amy reported. "We're shadowing them perfectly. Good work. Now let's see what these vortex ships are really made of." The bridge lights dimmed as special systems came online. Jake watched his crew work with practiced efficiency. Each person knew exactly what to do, their movements smooth and confident. "Dark matter cloak is active, Captain," Ben reported from engineering. "We're completely invisible to their sensors now." "Quantum torpedoes loaded and ready," Carl added, his hands steady on the weapons console. Jake nodded, then turned to Amy. "What else can you tell me about those ships?" Amy studied her screen carefully. 3 destroyer-class vessels leading the group. Based on their energy signatures, I'd say they're about 200 meters long. Heavy armor, multiple weapon systems, and they think they're hunting helpless humans, Jake said with a grim smile. "Let's educate them." A soft chime announced an incoming message. Admiral Harper's face appeared on the screen again, but this time she looked different. Her eyes held a fierce determination he'd rarely seen. "Captain Morrison, you are cleared for operational testing. Show our visitors what the Shadow can do." "Understood, Admiral. What about the rest of the fleet?" "The Ghost and Phantom are still weeks away from completion. For now, you're our only active hunter. Be careful, Jake. We can't afford to lose you or reveal too much too soon." The connection ended. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was waiting for orders, their faces reflecting a mix of excitement and nervousness. "All right, people. This is what we've been training for. We're going to hit them fast and hard, then disappear. Lieutenant Chen, select our target." "The lead destroyer, sir. It appears to be their command vessel." "Good choice. Carl, prepare a full spread of quantum torpedoes. Ben, make sure our exit route is clear." "Sir?" Amy said suddenly. "I'm reading massive energy spikes from the Vortex fleet. They're powering up their weapons." On the main display, they could see a small human cargo ship stumbling into the Vortex formation, clearly trying to escape. The aliens wasted no time. Bright beams of energy lashed out, hitting the cargo ship. Small explosions bloomed across its hull as systems failed one by one. The ship tried to change course, but it was too late. A final massive blast tore through its center and the vessel broke apart. The bridge of the Shadow fell silent. Everyone had just witnessed innocent humans dying. Jake's voice turned ice cold. "Change of plans. We're not running tests anymore. Full combat operations, all targets are live. Amy, calculate firing solutions for all 3 destroyers." "Sir," Carl said quietly, "our orders were to be careful." "Those people in that cargo ship were following orders too," Jake cut him off. "They were supposed to be safe in human space. Now they're dead. No more tests. We end this now." Amy worked quickly. "Solutions calculated, Captain. We can hit all 3 targets in sequence if we move fast enough." "Do it." The Shadow glided silently through space, positioning itself perfectly. The quantum torpedoes launched in complete silence, invisible to enemy sensors. The first torpedo struck the lead destroyer's engine section. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. Blue-white fire erupted from the ship's rear, sending it spinning out of control. The second destroyer barely had time to react before its own torpedo hit, punching through armor like it was paper. Alarms screamed across both Vortex ships. Jake could see small figures moving behind their viewports, aliens scrambling to understand what was happening. "Third target is changing course," Amy announced. They're trying to run. They don't get to run, Jake said grimly. Not after what we just saw. Carl hit them. The final torpedo found its mark, striking the fleeing destroyer amidships. This time, something critical must have been hit. The entire ship erupted in a chain of explosions, each one bigger than the last. In less than 2 minutes, 3 massive alien warships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. All targets destroyed, Captain, Carl reported, his voice filled with awe. Sir? Ben called from engineering. We're reading distress beacons from the debris. There might be survivors. Jake hesitated. Part of him wanted to leave the aliens to their fate. They had just murdered an entire civilian crew. But he knew what kind of message that would send. Pick up any survivors. We'll interrogate them and then return them to their people with a message. As the Shadow moved to begin rescue operations, Amy looked up from her console. Captain, I've been analyzing our attack. The quantum torpedoes performed better than expected. Our stealth systems worked perfectly. But I think we revealed too much. What do you mean? Sir, we should have used conventional weapons first. Made it look like we got lucky. Now they know we have advanced technology. Jake considered this. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Fear can be as powerful as any weapon. They pulled 2 vortex survivors from the wreckage. The aliens were tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and large dark eyes. Their armor was damaged but still functional. Jake stood before them in the ship's holding area. You attacked our people. You murdered civilians. Why? One of the aliens spoke, its voice coming through the translator in harsh tones. We were told humans were weak, easy prey. The Trade Federation said, the Trade Federation told you to attack us? The alien's large eyes widened. Not directly. They provided information, ship locations, defense positions. They said humans were growing too fast, becoming a threat to galactic order. Jake felt his anger grow. So this was part of a larger plan. Someone was using the Vortex Collective as a weapon against humanity. Your fleet dies here, he told the prisoners. Go back to your people, tell them what happened. Tell them that humans are no longer prey. We are the hunters now. Back on the bridge, Jake addressed his crew. Good work, everyone. Ben, analyze every bit of data we collected. Amy, I want a full report on that Trade Federation connection. Carl, run diagnostics on all weapon systems. What's our next move, Captain? Ben asked. Jake looked at the stars outside. We hunt. The Vortex came here to start a war, now we're going to finish it, but first we need to warn Earth about the Trade Federation. This is bigger than just a Vortex invasion. The Shadow turned toward home, carrying the promise of war and the seeds of a new era for humanity. The hunt had begun. 2 weeks later, the Shadow drifted silently near a massive space station. The structure belonged to the Vortex Collective and served as their main supply hub for this sector. Jake watched the station's traffic through the view screen. Cargo, ships coming and going, loading weapons and supplies. Sir, we've got company, Amy announced. 2 other human ships just dropped out of stealth on the far side of the station. Jake smiled. Right on schedule. Open a secure channel to the Ghost and Phantom. 2 new faces appeared on split screens. Captain Maria Santos commanded the Ghost, while Captain Ryan Brooks led the Phantom. Both wore the same determined expression. As Jake, captains, Jake greeted them. Ready to begin Operation Dark Hunt? Ghost is ready, Maria replied. All systems green. Phantom standing by, Ryan added. Let's give them something to worry about. Jake nodded. Remember the plan. Hit fast, gather intel, then vanish. We want them scared, but we need information about their main fleet. Begin in 3 minutes. The 3 human ships moved into position around the Vortex station. The station had hundreds of workers and dozens of defending fighters, but they had no idea death was already sitting at their doorstep. Time to go, Jake announced to his crew. Carl, target their communication array first. We don't want them calling for help too soon. The first quantum torpedo struck perfectly. The massive communication dish on top of the station exploded in silence, pieces spinning off into space. Immediately, alarms started blaring inside the station. Ghost and Phantom are engaging, Amy reported. Multiple targets destroyed. Jake watched as bright flashes marked the destruction of Vortex fighters and supply ships. The alien defenders moved too slowly, their ships designed for known threats, not invisible hunters using unknown weapons. Sir, Ben called out. Massive energy spike from inside the station. They're trying to power up some kind of experimental weapon. Emergency jump all ships, Jake ordered into the comm. Everyone back to Rally Point Alpha. As the 3 human ships disappeared, leaving the damaged station behind, Jake felt a small measure of satisfaction. But he knew this was just the beginning. Hours later, the 3 ships floated in dark space behind a small moon. Captains Santos and Brooks joined Jake aboard the Shadow for a debriefing. Preliminary reports show we destroyed over 30 enemy vessels, Maria said, reading from a datapad. Station damage is significant but not critical. Any survivors? Jake asked. Several, Ryan answered. Both Ghost and Phantom recovered prisoners. The interrogations are revealing interesting information about their supply network. Jake leaned forward. What about their main invasion fleet? That's where it gets complicated, Maria said, frowning. According to the prisoners, the main fleet is gathering at a staging area called Shadow's End, 3 systems away. But here's the strange part. They seem to be expecting us. Expecting us? Yes. One prisoner said their war commander. Zartok believes human stealth ships are only myths created by the Trade Federation. He thinks we're just lucky scouts getting off surprise attacks. Jake couldn't help but smile. Then let's keep him believing that. Ben, what did our scans show about that weapon they were powering up? Unknown technology, Captain. But I managed to grab some data before we jumped. It'll take time to analyze, but it looks like some kind of focused energy beam. Definitely not Vortex design. Trade Federation technology, Amy suggested. Most likely, Ben agreed. A chime announced an incoming message. Admiral Harper's face appeared on screen, looking pleased for the first time in months. Excellent work, all 3 ships. Your coordinated attack is causing panic throughout Vortex space. They're pulling ships from forward positions to defend their supply lines. Admiral, Jake asked, permission to continue deep strikes? We can keep them off balance. Granted, but be careful. Intelligence reports that several species are now asking questions about humanity's sudden military capability. The secret won't last much longer. What about the Trade Federation? Are they involved in supplying weapons to the Vortex? Lisa's expression darkened. We're investigating. Continue your mission, but gather any information you can about Federation involvement. Harper out. After the connection ended, Jake turned to his fellow captains. Questions? Suggestions? Ryan spoke first. We need to rescue Commander Noah White. What? Noah's dead. His ship was destroyed months ago. No, sir. During interrogation, one of the Vortex prisoners mentioned a human officer being held at a detention facility near their main base. The description matches Commander White. If it's really him, he'll have valuable intelligence. Jake felt a spike of hope. Noah White had been one of their best officers, lost during what everyone thought was a routine patrol. Where is this facility? 2. Systems over, Maria replied. Heavily guarded, but if all 3 ships work together, plan the rescue, Jake decided immediately. We'll need to move fast. If the main Vortex fleet is gathering, this might be our last chance to operate freely in this area. Over the next few hours, the 3 captains worked on their rescue plan. Jake watched them collaborate, feeling proud of how far humanity had come. Just months ago, they were pretending to be helpless traders. Now they were coordinating military operations that had enemy commanders waking up in cold sweats. Sir? Amy interrupted his thoughts. Long-range scanners are picking up something unusual. Multiple energy signatures moving toward human space, but they're not Vortex. What species? Unknown, but based on the signature profiles, they appear to be various ships from different species. Some look like Draknari vessels, others might be Terran Union ships. Jake frowned. The Draknari were known for staying neutral in all conflicts. The Terran Union was a loose alliance of smaller species that often traded with humans. What are they doing heading toward human space? I'm not sure, sir, but based on their trajectory, they'll reach the outer colonies in about 5 days. Jake looked at his fellow captains. We need to accelerate our timeline. Execute the rescue plan immediately. If these ships are unfriendly, we need Noah's intel more than ever. As the 3 ship captains prepared to leave, Jake felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. Every decision now affected not just his crew, but possibly the future of humanity itself. The hunt had grown more complex, but they were committed to seeing it through. One more thing, he called as Maria and Ryan reached the door. Remember, we're not just fighting the vortex anymore. Someone bigger is pulling the strings. Trust no one outside our direct command structure. They nodded grimly and left to prepare their ships. Jake turned back to the view screen, staring at the stars. Soon they would know if Commander White was alive. Soon they would understand more about the mysterious ships heading toward human space. For now, the hunt continued. The 3 human ships moved silently through space toward the Vortex detention facility. Jake watched the tactical display showing their approach. The facility was built inside a large asteroid, with only small landing platforms visible on the surface. Sir, I'm detecting about 15 guard ships around the facility, Amy reported. Most are patrol craft, but there are 2 heavy fighters. Can we get in without fighting? Jake asked. Negative. The entrance is too well guarded. We'll need to create a distraction. Jake activated the communication system. Phantom, you'll hit the far side of the facility. Make them think that's the main attack. Ghost, you circle around and cover our exit. Shadow goes in for the rescue. Both captains acknowledged the plan. Jake turned to Ben Davis. What about those guard ships? Standard Vortex fighters, Ben confirmed. Our stealth should get us past most of them, but we'll need to move fast. Their weapons are still more numerous than ours. Minutes felt like hours as they crept closer. When they reached the designated positions, Jake gave the signal. The Phantom burst from stealth on the far side of the asteroid, firing multiple torpedoes at the landing platforms. Explosions lit up space as Vortex fighters scrambled to respond. Most of the guard ships turned toward the attack, leaving the main entrance less defended. Now, Jake ordered. The Shadow streaked toward the facility entrance, its weapons precisely targeting the remaining guards. 2 quantum torpedoes eliminated the heavy fighters before they could react. The ship dove into the asteroid's opening, scraping past surprised guards who were rushing outside. Commander Sarah Blake, take a boarding team and find Noah White, Jake commanded. You have 10 minutes. Sarah nodded grimly and led 5 Marines toward the airlock. They wore advanced combat suits and carried weapons designed for close combat. The suits had built-in translators and medical equipment, everything needed for a quick rescue. Sir? Amy called from her station. I'm reading massive jamming signals from the asteroid. Someone doesn't want us getting information out. Override. We need to know what's happening inside. Outside, the Phantom and Ghost were dealing with angry Vortex fighters. Despite being outnumbered, the human ship's advanced technology gave them the advantage. Still, they couldn't hold out forever. Shadow, you have enemies incoming, Maria Santos warned from the Ghost. A Vortex cruiser just appeared on our scopes. Jake swore softly. Sarah, whatever you're doing, do it faster. Inside the facility, Sarah and her team moved through narrow corridors. The architecture was clearly designed for the 4-armed Vortex species, making movement awkward for humans. They encountered small groups of guards but dealt with them quickly. Using stun weapons, Blake to Shadow, came Sarah's voice over the comm. We've found the detention block, massive security doors, but we're about to breach. Back on the bridge, Ben watched his displays with growing concern. Captain, that Vortex cruiser is charging weapons. Our stealth won't help much against something that size. How long until it's in firing range? 3 minutes. Jake made a quick decision. All ships, rotate firing patterns. Keep that cruiser busy, but don't let it get a clear shot. The 3 human ships began a deadly dance with the enemy cruiser. They would decloak, fire, and immediately recloak in different positions. The cruiser's massive guns tracked too slowly to hit the smaller ships, but it could absorb their attacks much better than they could absorb its return fire. Blake, status, Jake called. We've breached the detention block. Looking for Commander White now. Wait, I've got him. He's alive but in bad shape. We're moving to extraction point. Copy that. Move fast, the neighborhood's getting crowded. Sarah's team found Noah White chained to a wall in a cell designed to hold humans. He was unconscious, his uniform torn and dirty. But he was breathing. Get him to medical immediately, Sarah ordered, as two Marines lifted the commander. As they moved back through the corridors, Noah stirred slightly. His eyes opened, focusing slowly on Sarah's face. Commander Blake, he whispered. Is this real? It's real, Noah. We're getting you out. Wait, I know. About the Trade Federation. They're behind everything. The invasion. It's a distraction. Save your strength. Tell us when we're safe. But Noah grabbed her arm weakly. No. Listen. The Federation, they made a deal with something from outside our galaxy. They're scared of us, humans. We adapt too fast. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of deal? Use the vortex. Eliminate human expansion. In exchange, protection from the outsiders. Blake, came Jake's voice through her comm. You need to move now. The entire facility is powering up some kind of weapon. Sarah and her team rushed toward the exit. Behind them, alarms began blaring throughout the asteroid. Emergency lighting turned the corridors red. When they reached the shadow, medics immediately took Noah to the medical bay. As soon as the boarding team was secure, Jake ordered immediate departure. All ships, emergency jump, that facility is about to blow. The three human ships disappeared just as a massive energy wave burst from the asteroid. The Vortex cruiser, too slow to escape, was caught in the blast and heavily damaged. Minutes later, safely away from the explosion, Jake stood in the medical bay looking at Noah White. The doctor was already working on him and his vital signs were improving. What did you learn? Jake asked Sarah. It's worse than we thought, sir. According to Noah, the Trade Federation isn't just helping the Vortex. They're working with some unknown force from outside our galaxy. They see human technological advancement as a threat. Jake absorbed this information. It changed everything. The Vortex invasion wasn't just an aggressive expansion. It was part of a larger plan to eliminate humanity before they could grow too powerful. Sir? Amy called from the bridge. We're receiving messages from the mysterious ships that were heading toward human space. They're not hostile, they're refugees. The Draknari, Terran Union, and several other species are fleeing their home systems. Fleeing from what? Unknown, sir. But they're asking for human protection. They say they've seen what our ships can do against the Vortex. They want to join us. Jake returned to the bridge. Open channels to all ships. It's time to let our new allies know the truth. As he prepared to address the arriving fleet, Jake realized their secret was over. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Humanity had moved from the shadows into the light, and they weren't alone in their fight against the darkness beyond. Jake stood on the bridge of the shadow, looking at a massive holographic display. It showed the Vortex main fleet, over 100 ships gathered at Shadow's End. But now he had more than just 3 stealth ships. The refugee species had provided valuable intelligence and additional firepower. Sir, Amy reported, we've finished analyzing the data from the detention facility. The Vortex shipyard is their main construction center. If we destroy it, we cripple their ability to build new warships. Noah White, now recovered enough to stand, joined Jake at the display. The Trade Federation gave them complete blueprints of human technology. That shipyard is building weapons specifically designed to counter our stealth capabilities. Then, we hit it now before those weapons come online, Jake decided. How many ships do we have? 37 total, Ben answered. The Shadow, Ghost, and Phantom, plus 12 Draknari warships, 10 Terran Union cruisers, and 12 ships from smaller species. Not a match for the Vortex fleet in direct combat, but with proper planning. We don't need to match them, Jake interrupted, studying the tactical display. We need to destroy that shipyard and escape. Noah, what's the best approach? The asteroid field around Shadow's end masks energy signatures. We can get close without detection if we shut down all non-essential systems. But once we attack, we'll have minutes before their entire fleet responds. Jake turned to Commander Sarah Blake. Sarah, I want you to lead a special ops team aboard their command ship. While we attack the shipyard, you'll extract their war commander Zartok. If he's working with the Trade Federation, we need him alive. Understood, Captain. Hours later, the combined human and allied fleet drifted through the asteroid field like shadows. Jake watched as ships larger than anything humanity had built years ago moved with perfect precision. The refugees had not only brought ships, but crews trained in advanced combat. All ships, this is Shadow Actual. Jake broadcast on a secure channel. Remember the plan. Phase 1, stealth approach. Phase 2, simultaneous strike on shipyard and command vessel. Phase 3, rapid extraction. Good hunting. The formation split into 2 groups. The main force, led by Jake, targeted the HFY shipyard. Sarah's team, assisted by the fastest alien ships, aimed for the massive command vessel floating near the asteroid field's edge. 30 seconds to weapons range, Amy announced. Jake watched the chronometer tick down. At exactly 0, light erupted across space. The combined fire of 37 ships struck the Vortex shipyard simultaneously. The massive structure, built inside a hollowed asteroid, began to collapse as explosions chained through its construction facilities. Half-built warships broke apart before they could ever fly. At the same time, Sarah's team punched through the command ship's defenses. Their advanced suits allowed them to move through corridors filled with defending Vortex soldiers. Stun weapons and tactical precision cleared their path to the command center. "This is Shadow," came Sarah's voice. "We have Zartok, moving to extraction." But things didn't go as smoothly as planned. The Vortex fleet, though surprised, organized quickly. Dozens of ships broke from formation surrounding the attackers. "Sir," Amy called. "Enemy ships are boxing us in. We can't jump out." Jake thought rapidly. They needed more time for Sarah's escape. "All ships, attack formation Delta. We're going," to punch a hole in their lines. The human and allied ships formed a spearhead, concentrating their fire on a single point in the enemy formation. Quantum torpedoes and conventional weapons created a corridor of destruction through the Vortex fleet. Through the chaos, Jake saw something that chilled him. A massive ship unlike anything they'd seen appeared on his sensors. It was easily 3 times larger than the biggest Vortex vessel, its design strange and angular. "Sir," Ben said quietly, "that's not a Vortex ship. The energy signature is completely unknown." Jake realized this must be connected to what Noah had mentioned. The outside force working with the Trade Federation. But there was no time to investigate. Right now, survival was the priority. "Sarah, you have enemy contacts approaching your position," he warned. "Negative, Shadow. These aren't enemies." "Repeat, these aren't enemies. The Vortex are attacking their own command ship. Zartok is screaming about betrayal. Something's wrong." The massive unknown ship began powering weapons but not aimed at the human forces. Its target was the Vortex fleet itself. "All ships," Jake broadcast. "Unknown contact is firing on Vortex forces. Use the confusion to extract. Sarah, get Zartok. Out now." As the mysterious ship unleashed devastating weapons on the Vortex fleet, the Allied forces used the distraction to escape. Ships began jumping away, following pre-planned routes. Minutes later, both attack teams were clear. The Shadow was the last to leave, with Jake watching the aftermath. The Vortex fleet was in chaos, their ships breaking formation and fleeing in different directions. The unknown ship remained, hovering over the destroyed shipyard like a dark angel. "Do safe in deep space." Jake called all captains for an emergency meeting. Sarah brought War Commander Zartok, now restrained and defiant despite his capture. "Who was in that ship?" Jake demanded of the Vortex commander. Zartok's large eyes narrowed. "You stupid humans. You have no idea what you've started. The Trade Federation made a deal with the Harvesters, beings from the void between galaxies. They promised to deliver this sector of space to them in exchange for survival. The Vortex were just pawns," Noah added, understanding dawning on his face. "You were supposed to weaken us for harvest. Yes, Zartok spat. But you proved too strong too quickly. The Harvesters decided to accelerate their timeline. The Federation betrayed us all. Jake felt the weight of this revelation. They hadn't just been fighting a territorial war. They'd stumbled into a conflict for the very survival of their galaxy. 6 months later, the landscape of the galaxy had changed completely. The Shadow, no longer operating in secret, served as the flagship of the new Galactic Defense Alliance. Species that had once seen humanity as weak merchants now depended on human technology and tactics to defend against the Harvester incursions. Jake stood on the observation deck of the reconstructed Shadow, now openly displaying humanity's military colors. The ship bore scars from many battles but had been enhanced with technology shared by their new allies. "Sir," Amy said, joining him at the viewport, "Scouts report another Harvester probe entering this sector." Jake nodded, watching the stars. "Then we hunt. That's what we do now." The galaxy had learned that humanity, forced to develop in secret, had become its unexpected defenders. What began as a hunt for survival had evolved into something greater, a guardian force standing between known space and the darkness beyond. Outside the viewport, other ships of the Alliance gathered. Human stealth technology merged with alien innovations had created a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They were no longer hiding in shadows. They were the light holding back the dark. The hunt continued, but now humanity led the charge.